Welcome to Truth for Our Time with your host, Tamara Scott.
And good day. Thank you for joining us. My blessings on you and to you this bright, shiny day. We're filming a little bit early for those of you who usually join us on Wednesday at 10 a.m. live from Webcast One Live Studios. Our thanks to J. Michael McCoy for sharing his air with us. Webcast One Live Studios, you can catch us every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m., except this week. This week we're filming and taping at noon on Monday because I fly out and fulfill my responsibilities as a Republican National Committee woman in South Carolina this week. So by the time you hear this on 99.3, it will have been 5 or 6 days past. But the news, truth is always relevant. So some of the headlines might be past, or some of those issues we're talking about may be further down the page when you scroll through the internet. But the truth is always relevant in the core of everything that we believe and do. So thank you to J. Michael McCoy for Webcast One Live. And then we also thank 99.3 FM, KTIA, the Truth Network, the Christian voice of Central Iowa. My pleasure to be on that radio station back with a lot of the folks that I've been with on previous stations and other settings. And so whether it's David Jeremiah or some of the other folks I love to hear and listen to, today was actually the ACLJ talking about the Little Sisters of the Poor and the fact that the government is coming after them. Think that through. They waged the cost and went all the way to the Supreme Court. They prevailed in the U.S. Supreme Court. And that's not enough for this administration. No, they're going to come after them again. So it's not enough that this administration is forcing you and I to pay for things we don't agree with, like Planned Parenthood. And my guest last week, if you didn't hear that show, I would invite you to go. I do now have it on the website, tamarascott.com. It is the show with Mackenzie Dreesen, whose alumni status was revoked from her sorority, the Delta Phi Delta sorority at Cornell College right here in Iowa, not while she was in college, not while she was on campus. No. The tentacles of political correctness now reach past and extend the campus into your career. They decided they didn't care for something she posted on Facebook. Someone decided to berate her and take her apart on Facebook, which you heard Mackenzie say that she actually just decided at that point to get off, to block the person and be done with the conversation. She really didn't feel like she had come back at the person, other than some likes here or dislikes on other comments. And finding out 6 weeks later, the sorority decided to revoke her status. No hearing for her. Apparently they had some triumvirate. They had some process, but they didn't let her know about it. They didn't invite her to it. She didn't get to face her accuser, and she never got to defend herself. And part of the reasoning was they said it wasn't what she believed. Well, we can't come down with that type of a ruling. They said it was how she stated what she believed and that she was disrespectful to other sisters. At the same time, I think it was some of those sisters who were making very personal attacks towards Mackenzie and her fiancé, even calling him a murderer for his service in the military in Iraq and Afghanistan. Think of the twist here. Just the absolute twist. And of course, then I read through some of the other posts on the Cornell College Facebook page, and incredibly disrespectful, hateful, so graphic that we decided not to put most of them on the tamarascott.com webpage. Just absolute filth. This young lady couldn't defend herself, couldn't hold up a conversation if she had to, because she couldn't do it without swearing or using sexually graphic terms. This is the new norm. And I don't know why, other than debauchery and desensitivity in our campuses, in our educational system, in our entertainment system. But she couldn't just have an explanation. Everything was embarrassingly, shockingly, sexually graphic, as if that's going to shut the other person up. So this is the new move. It wasn't enough to do it on college campuses with peer pressure. Now, and we see this not just on campuses, in other areas as well, whether it's career, whether it's the media, whether it's politics, whether it's the bullying bills. And often it's the bullies who cry. I've heard just another instance in a local high school here. A young lady who started the trouble, young lady who is always badgering, manipulating, and now it's not going her way. So she's crying, bullying, and she's going to the school authorities to set up a bullying squad. Why? Because she needs her heyday. She wants to have her grievance aired, and things weren't going her way, so she's going to try it through this. And this is the whole problem with the whole bullying thing. If we just come back to the golden rule, teaching people respect for everyone, treat others as you'd like to be treated, I think we could do away with a lot of this. So coming back to Mackenzie Dreesen, here's the deal. If you don't assimilate to the new group think, they won't tolerate as much as they demand it from you. So if you don't assimilate, they won't tolerate. Then they will work to humiliate, intimidate, isolate, confiscate, and then eradicate. You've seen it. I've seen it. If you don't assimilate, they will not tolerate. They will begin to humiliate, intimidate, isolate, so that you lose your friends, or they make such a big deal, or they embarrass you so much that other people will think twice about communicating with you, bringing you in, working with you. Then they will confiscate. Here they've confiscated Mackenzie's alumni status. Then they will eradicate. She is no more allowed. She's no more listed in her family line as an active member. They'll eradicate her from the process, from the discussion, from the conversation. You see it in other areas. I see it in other areas. And this is just, that's my little thing of what's going on. And if you ask me about it later, I'll have to study and see if I can remember it. I think I do have it on tamarascott.com in the Mackenzie Dreesen story. So take time to go back and listen to that. I'm not saying you shouldn't send your kid to college, but I would tell you to be very, very careful. Make sure you've got them well grounded, protected, a hedge of protection around them, and that they know what they're dealing with, and that you prepared them through Summit Ministries out in Manitou Springs with Dr. Jeffrey Myers, started by David Noble, or that you found some way to impart in them the wisdom and the ability to articulate what they believe in, what they stand for. Otherwise, if they don't go as a missionary, they become somebody else's mission filled. And too often we know we're losing our kids in the education arena. And it used to be at the college level, and it is, but it's now down into the high school and to the junior high, which is why Ken Ham wrote the book he did several years ago. They're already gone. By the time we figure out our teens are rebellious, they're already gone. The heart has already been deceived. So parents, my heart with you. I pray with you over your children, but it is a very, very serious role. Raising your children is the most important responsibility you have on the face of this earth, for they will someday stand before God. And whether you have them prepared for that they can do it with a heart of excitement and eagerness to meet their Lord and Savior, or one of intimidation and fear because they don't know where they are, all will stand before Him someday. And how is your household going to be ready? A couple of other announcements in preparing your household and getting them ready. On the 27th, that is a Wednesday, on the 27th, Dr. Peg Luksick will be coming into town. An organization called United States Parents Involved in Education, there's a novel idea, will be holding a press conference at 12:30 at the Airport Holiday Inn. You are invited. We would love to have you attend. And we're still working out the details, but we may have a seminar, a short educational seminar with Dr. Luksick while she's in town after the press conference. Do a search on her on Google. I'll find a couple links and I'll try to get them on tamarascott.com or on our Facebook page for Truth for Our Time. and show you who Peg Luksick is. Her wisdom is astounding. She's been in this education arena for quite some time, and she will tell you the education reforms are nothing more, especially those right now with Common Core, are corporate takeovers, corporate mandates into the educational system for school-to-work programs. Her specialty is testing, and you will appreciate what she can talk about in the data collection, how it is used, the risks about it, and how it really helps or doesn't help our children. For instance, she talks about one of the test questions on a test, I believe it was out of Hawaii back in the 90s. And students were asked if they found a wallet and it had money in it, what would they do? And it was a multiple choice. And I think she might have even said the right choice wasn't listed. But there were several other choices listed: keeping the money, returning the wallet, etc., etc. But she said, I ask you this, is a student a better reader if they return the wallet or they don't return the wallet? And in saying that, she revealed and exposed what the tests are about. They are capturing the character of your children. Who they might be able to see is more sturdy in their foundations and morality, and who maybe not. Now, why they do that, I can't say. Maybe it's to see who is someone they might use in a program or might be able to shift in a career path. I don't know. I'm not going to go there. People would call it a conspiracy. They would call it whatever. But why would they want that information on how honorable, noble your child is? It's something we all want to strive towards, but it's yours as a parent. And we all know it's not something that can be tested on pen and paper. It's tested in the moment when we think we're alone often. So she'll be coming in the 27th, 12:30 at the Airport Holiday Inn. Mark it down with your pen and pencil. We'd like to have you there. We're also going to try and get her in a couple other venues. I'll keep you informed of those if we can make those work out. The Conservative Breakfast, Westside Conservative Breakfast is that morning. And if they don't get a presidential candidate, she may be speaking there, but we don't know yet. We'll also take her to the legislature because, as you know, they kicked back into session on Monday the 11th, the day we're taping this. And I'll have to tell you, I was there last week in a couple of hearings. And many of your legislators were there on an educational hearing. And you know, I am the first to hold them accountable. I am the first to let you know when we're disappointed or when you need to take action. I also try to be the first and the one to tell you when they've done well. In an educational meeting, the Department of Education came out and told them what they were planning to do. See, there have been some discrepancies when things didn't quite go so well last time, and they couldn't quite push over the Smarter Balance Assessment Consortium on Iowans because it cost 2 to 3 to maybe 4 times more per test, anywhere from $10 to $23 more per student. Some of the legislators started saying, I don't think so. I don't think this is a good idea. It hasn't been tested itself. We don't know enough about the data collection. We don't know enough about the digital testing. We don't know enough about the bandwidth. So the Board of Education tried interpreting the code to say that they had the authority to do it and bypass the legislature. Those folks that you elect, that you hold accountable, were about to be bypassed by folks who are unelected, unaccountable. And we've done shows, as you know. You can go on to TamaraScott.com and do the show with Rob Potter and Paul Reynolds on the coal mining industry and regulatory cost. The Competitive Enterprise Institute has a great quick fact sheet, and I'll try and put it up on our link again for Truth for Our Time. You may have to scroll back through the week to find it. I'll put it up perhaps at the end of, I better make myself a note while I'm talking to you. To put it on, I'll put the CEI, Competitive Enterprise Institute fact sheet on for this show. But remember, as presidential candidates are trotting through the state, and some of them are foolishly promising things they can't deliver, like a free college education. If there's no such thing as a free lunch, I dare say there's no such thing as a free college education either. Some of them are offering a minimum wage increase. Yee-haw, whip-de-doo. That's going to give you maybe another $1 an hour to your paycheck. And we know that we already have issues because then the cost of living goes up because the employer, the business, is not going to absorb that. They're going to pass it along. So the products are going to cost you more. So that the more that comes through your pocket is going to go right back out again. So it's not going to help you, and it may even throw you in a higher tax bracket. But instead, something very positive, is lowering the cost of government and regulatory fees. And we're going to have to come back to that because I hear the music. So you'll have to stay tuned to hear how much we could save the average household. Stay tuned for Truth for Our Time, 99.3 FM, Webcast One Live Studios, helping you when the headlines hit home.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcastonelive.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Rock and Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens, rock on! This is Pat McManus for Rock and Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Welcome back to Truth for Our Time with your host, Tamara Scott.
And thank you for staying tuned. We were just about to tell you what was so much better than a minimum wage increase and how much we could save you. Remember, we mentioned it in our past shows. The Competitive Enterprise Institute notes that economy-wide regulatory costs amount to an average. Are you ready for this? If you're in your car, buckle your safety belt. If you're at home, sit down. The costs are $14,976 per household. That's around 29% of the average family budget of $51,000, $100 a year. So though not paid directly by individuals, this cost of regulation exceeds the amount of the average family spends on healthcare, food, and transportation. $14,976 a year is what we could save ourselves if we do away with some of these regulatory costs. These are the unelected bureaucrats in your commissions and your advisory boards and your, like the airport, the advisory board for the airport here in Des Moines, unelected bureaucrats who are taxing. They are taxing businesses. They don't have the constitutional ability, I believe, to do that. They don't have the authority, but they're taking the power to do it. And we're allowing it because nobody's stopping it. And they're unelected. And so the legislators are saying, gosh, our hands are washed. The city council people are saying our hands are washed. They're not under our jurisdiction, or they're their own board. It's time to take things back the way our founding fathers intended, and anything that comes out of your purse should come through the legislature. But you could save yourself $14,976. Talk to your candidates when they come to the state about this. We don't need a minimum wage increase that will put the employer in jeopardy in times of stress financially. Give them the freedom to make the wage, to increase it, to decrease it, to hire more, to hire less, whatever they need to do. Allow them the freedom, which is in Matthew, in the vineyard. We see the parable of the vineyard, and the folks come and they get their work early and they get a set wage, and then folks come later in the day and they have the same set wage. And what does the vineyard owner say? That is my business. There's our lesson there. It's the employer's business. Let the market set the wage, and you'll have a healthier business climate than trying to increase minimum wage, where people end up getting laid off because employers just can't keep another person on at that wage, where they might be able to hire somebody and give them a little bit of additional income, maybe not something to keep the home afloat, but it helps keep gas in the boat, if you know what I'm saying. So don't knock that. Also, I want to tell you a couple more things, and then we're going to stop and go with our guest, Leo Hohmann. He's been a guest on this show before, and every time he's on air, he and I both get pegged and hit and dinged and beat up for what we talk about, and then months later, what we talk about is in the headlines. So we'll take the hits and the dings and the pings just so that we can continue to tell you the truth. That's what we're about, is giving you God's word in today's world and helping you when the headlines hit home. So he'll be joining us a little bit later. But first, we talked about the legislature starting, and when it does, Concerned Women for America, the women's largest public policy organization, will continue with its program. I think it's been going, since 2000 or 1999. So that's quite some time, almost 17 years. Wow. They've been doing an Encourage a Legislature program or Encourage a Leader program. In that program, here's a great way for you to participate. If you're wondering how you can fulfill 1 Timothy 2:1 and 2, praying for those in authority and in leadership, and how you can minister to your legislators, and how you might get to know them, this is a great way. There's no lobbying on this, although if you want to learn to lobby, Concerned Women for America has a Learn to Lobby program, and they would love to teach you that. They've done that with several folks, many who have gone on to be active in the political arena. Some have even run for office and been elected. But they will teach you how to lobby. That's a different program if you'd like to do that. They'll come to your book club, Bible study, your home, or you can go to the Capitol and do a tour with me, the state director. But the Encourage a Legislature program you can do from home. You don't even have to be a member. You just say, yes, I'm going to pray for my legislature. Send me a packet. And in that packet are 16 pre-printed postcards with a scripture verse to encourage our legislators and a quote from our founding fathers affirming our Christian heritage as a nation. All you have to do is take those 16 postcards while you're sitting listening to a audio book or watching some TV. You can, or maybe some gospel music, you address those postcards, put your name on them as well, the return address and your name, and then you can write an additional note if you wish, a little loving note, a promising note. You can put that card in a fancier card if you wish. We have one lady out of Altoona who makes them, or Polk City, she makes the most beautiful cards by hand, and then she sticks the postcard in there. And she further encourages them. But you just have those a stack, then you stamped them, you've addressed them, you set them somewhere where it's handy, whether it's in your car, by the fridge, wherever it is. And then each week, on the same day, you slip it in the mail and you pray. You pray when God brings them to mind. You pray when you mail your card. You keep their family, their health, their direction for leadership, provision, protection, all of that. Pray for those in kings and authorities. That's what we do. It's a great way to do it. It's one of the cheapest ways you can do it. And Concerned Women for America can use your help doing it. You can find them on the Facebook, Concerned Women for America. You can find them on the web. Go to CWFA, Concerned Women for America, CWFA.org. Click on Iowa. Or you can find, I believe it is, director at CWFA.iowa.org. I think that's the address. It always concerns me a little bit, but I think that's it. On to that, the caucus is coming up. The many phone calls you've gotten. I went through my messages this morning. I had 16 messages. Of those 16 messages on my answering machine at home, 2 actually had a human voice. And of course, one was a recording, and the other was telling me about an event I needed to truck to see a candidate. You and I have been dealing with these phone calls for some time now. 16 in just a couple of days. It's all in vain if you don't go to the caucus. If you've never been to a caucus before, there are caucus training sessions. Your county political parties have them. You can call either political party where you think that you would best fit, the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, iowagop.org, Iowa Democrats spelled out .org, they're .org, iowodemocrats.org, iowagop.com. iowodemocrats.org, iowagop.com, and then they can give you location sites. It's right in your neighborhood. A caucus is meeting with your neighbors and discussing or hearing about each candidate and then voting. The Democrat's a little bit different than the Republican. Maybe we'll have somebody come in and talk about that in one of our future shows. The Republican's probably more quiet. You do it in a ballot, pencil, paper. Nobody even has to know who you vote for. The Democrat, you have to stand in a corner. And if you don't have enough in one corner, then I think you have to split up and go and join one of the other campaigns. So find where you're comfortable, read through the platforms, understand what the party believes in, find one that upholds biblical, scriptural tenets, just like our founding fathers did, and then get yourself February 1 to that caucus. Otherwise, everything is in vain. All the phone calls, all the traveling, all the commercials, it's all in vain. But even more, you are a steward. And if you're listening to this Christian radio station, then you understand that God has called you to be a good steward of what he's given you, and that's the freedom and liberty to guard here in America. We the people. There is no king to blame. It is us. So we the people. Okay, so Ryan, I think he's going to be getting Leo to join us here quickly. I think I've told you about all the things I had on my plate to tell you today. I always thank you for listening, and I don't think I thanked Christians for America, Crave. Christians for America, Christians reviving American values every day. We are thankful for their encouragement, their sponsorship, and coming along with us from the very beginning and giving us just the support to be on this show and the station. And if you want to help, they do have a 501c3 set up for us, and you can send something to them, and we can tell you how to do that in Florida. I'll gladly do that. And if you would like to consider sponsoring this show so that we can have truth on the air, information that you're not going to get on mainstream media, we would very much appreciate that support as well. And you can call Mac at Webcast One Live Studios, or you can call Chris Roloff. Either way, doesn't matter to me. You can tell I'm not in this for the money. I'm in this for the opportunity to tell you the truth you don't otherwise hear, helping you when the headlines hit home, living God's word in today's world. Leo Hohmann, I see the phone has lit up. Are you on the line?
Yes, I am here, Tamara.
Thank you for joining me today. Now, we only have maybe 25 minutes left in the show. And with you, gosh, I always want so much more, but I know your time is so precious. We were on air. I don't know when the last time was you were a guest, but we talked about your article called The Stealth Jihad, where you warned us that people were coming into the nation. Just give us a quick recap on that, if you will.
Yeah, about a year and a half ago almost now, I started reporting on the refugee resettlement program that our government has been carrying out under our noses for 35 years with little to no attention being paid by anyone, whether it be politicians, media, what have you. Nobody even knew that we were importing Muslim refugees from a host of countries with jihadist movements alive and well going on, such as Somalia, Afghanistan, Iraq, Democratic Republic of Congo, now Syria. But when it came down to the Syrian civil war spreading out refugees throughout Europe, we suddenly heard a lot about refugees in the mainstream media, and it just sort of exploded from there, Tamara, as you know. And then we had the Paris attacks that killed 130 people. At least one of those 8 attackers turned out to be a refugee who had come in through the refugee ranks from the Middle East. Then we have a couple of Iraqi refugees arrested last week here in the United States and charged with being ISIS operatives who had been planning an attack. The FBI now tells us that they have active ISIS investigations in all 50 states. Almost 1,000 different cases in all 50 states. So this whole issue has just really come back to bite us, Tamara, and I still don't see a serious effort going on in Congress to thwart the president's plans to expand the refugee program, let alone, cut it back and try to get a control over it. Our president wants to expand it. We've been bringing in 70,000 refugees per year, about half of them from Islamic countries, for the last decade or two. Obama's not the first one to do this. It started much earlier, back in the early 90s, late 80s. But he wants to expand it. He's going to bring in 85,000 this year and 100,000 next year, 10,000 from Syria alone, which 99% of the refugees coming from Syria will be Muslim, Sunni Muslim. We don't know how many will have ties to ISIS or the other Islamic fundamentalist groups waging war in that country.
So Leo, here's the deal. You and I talk about it, and then the left-leaning bloggers, whoever they are, love to just beat us up and try and make us look crazy. But
yeah, I take that as a badge of honor, Mara. I really do. When Right Wing Watch writes about me, they're pitiful accusations. I think ring hollow with the vast majority of Americans now, especially in light. I didn't even finish the whole scenario. Then we had after the Paris attacks, in which 130 people were killed. Then we had the San Bernardino attack, which killed 14 Americans by a husband and wife jihadist team. One of the wife came here on a fiancé visa, which their fiancé visas are handed out to the tune of about $36,000 per year, and our government now has tried to expand that and make it even easier for people to bring in someone who's a fiancé. Under a plan by the Gang of Eight, which passed the immigration bill in the Senate in 2013. Luckily, it died in the House. But under that plan, Paul Ryan and the others who supported that, Marco Rubio, they were going to expand the fiancé.
Stay tuned, listeners. We've got to go to a break. We'll be right back with more. We'll finish it when we come back, Leo.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed, fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money-back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
Welcome back to Truth for Our Time with your host, Tamara Scott.
And thank you for staying tuned. We had to rush off to our break there, but Leo Hohmann is our guest, Hohman. Leo, you write with WorldNet Daily. Where else can people find you, find your work?
WorldNet Daily is my exclusive website that I write for right now.
Okay, when you have your conference call again, you please tell Joseph Farah I said hello. Haven't seen him for quite some time, but did tour Israel with him back in 2013. So tell him I said hello. But we were talking about the Gang of Eight, and that brings to mind we have folks here in the state, our candidates, and you were telling us some of the dangers and some of the...
Yeah.
So
a couple of, one of the things that the Gang of Eight bill would have done would have been to, number one, expand the number of refugees coming into our country. Number two, it would have expanded the number of temporary guest workers coming into our country, which, they come here on 2- and 3-year visas and take jobs in blue-collar fields with the H-2B visa and white-collar fields with the H-1B visa. It would have also expanded the fiancé visa, which I said that there was 30-some thousand issued per year right now. However, they would have expanded that to green card holders, which means you wouldn't have even had to be a U.S. citizen, and you could have brought someone in as your fiancé. You could just be a green card holder here in the United States, and you could bring in a fiancé, say, from Saudi Arabia or Yemen or Iraq, who could come and join you as a lawful resident of this country with very little screening, which we saw in the San Bernardino attack, where this woman came from Saudi Arabia with lied on her visa, and it was just never checked.
And so in this latest omnibus bill, it had funding for the refugee program as well.
Fully funded, yes. Obama's expanded refugee program, like I said, 85,000 this year, 100,000 next year, was fully funded in this omnibus bill. It certainly was. And it also snuck in some language at the last minute that would quadruple the number of H-2B guest worker visas, potentially quadruple the number issued each year. And this H-2B visa is given to immigrants who want to come in for 2 to 3 years and work in blue-collar fields, take jobs, in landscaping, forestry, trucking, construction, hotel, motel maids, low-skilled positions that used to be very good jobs for Americans,
right,
who don't have a lot of education, will now be going to foreign workers.
Somehow we've it's a biblical issue that there's no honor. If you have a labor and for pay, there's honor in doing work. And somehow we've decided that only certain positions, I've heard people are supposed to be pro-immigration attorneys will say to other folks, you don't want to do that job. Leave it for them to do. So we're creating...
Well, where are all these people going to work? Everybody cannot have a college education and work in, the technology field. And by the way, we're even taking jobs from Americans in those fields with the H-1B visa, which allows people with high skills to come into this country and take jobs in the technology sector. And we've heard about this happening with company after a company, the most high profile of which was the Disney company, which laid off some 200 tech workers and made them train their replacements.
I heard that.
Tamara.
I heard that.
From India.
Well, I would guess some of those folks might train them a little funny, if you know what I mean.
Well, if you didn't train your replacement, you were not given your severance package.
Wow.
So you had to train them or you would lose your severance.
So you were responsible for how they produced. What if they didn't get the training you gave? Anyway, I digress, but...
It's insane. It's just insane.
It is insane. And honestly, as I was talking about before you came on the show, The Competitive Enterprise Institute has a fact sheet called, I think they've got it called The Commandments, that we could save $14,976 a year, I think it was, if we would reduce regulatory cost. If that were the deal, then these other jobs you're talking about where people are saying only immigrants will do them, they would be honorable jobs again, and folks could do whatever their heart chose. If they wanted to be out doing landscaping, if they wanted to be out being a mason and a bricklayer, they could do what they wanted to do and still afford to live if we could get rid of some of these government regulations. But let's get back on track. I have in front of me an article. A Muslim immigrant chanted Allahu Akbar while raping a gas station attendant and now refuses to appear in the North Dakota court. This is from December 14th. Is Somali immigrant refusing to appear in North Dakota because he simply does not recognize American law. So, and have you heard anything about Minnesota and the taxi drivers at the airport there refusing to take cab fares?
Oh, absolutely. Or they would refuse to take a cab fare from somebody who's got a six-pack of beer that they have not open, totally legal in a package. A bottle of wine not open, totally legal in a package. They would refuse to transport those customers because that's against Sharia, Islamic law. You cannot drink liquor. So they would not transport those customers. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, and I've heard also of seeing eye dogs.
Yes, right, because dogs are unclean in the Muslim faith, correct.
Which is a federal offense, I think, if you refuse a seeing eye dog.
Yet they get, a good many, majority, if not close to a majority, of the cab driver jobs in Minneapolis.
But they don't have any pushback on this. So this we haven't talked about off on air, and a good attorney will tell you never ask a question you don't know the answer to in front of an audience. But, Kim Davis got hauled into jail because she didn't fulfill what they said was a law, and I would disagree. I would say the whole Kim Davis thing wasn't just a freedom of religious thing. She was asking for the law that said she had to now issue same-sex marriage applications because there was no law. A court decided, but there was no law. It did not reconcile with the Kentucky law. And that's what she was asking for. These guys have a law. The ADA, the American Disabilities Act, is already a law. If they've got a dog, they don't have a choice.
Yeah, well, as we've seen, Tamara, there's two different standards in this country now for freedom of religion. If you're of the Islamic faith, even though Muslims only make up, according to the best estimates, 1 or 2% of our population, they seem to have a higher degree of religious rights and civil liberties associated with the First Amendment than Christians, who make up, 70 or 80% of the American population. It really is bizarre the way that's gotten twisted around.
So here we are in Iowa. What would you say to my fellow citizens as they're going to the coffee shops, the town halls, and talking to the candidates and asking their questions? What would be the questions they should be asking these candidates?
Will they stand up? Will they take a stand for Christians in this country, which is the majority of this country? Will they take a stand and defend us and defend our society against these attacks from Islamic extremists and CARE, they're Islamic apologists who are trying to stack the deck in favor of, as we just spoke, Muslim members of the Muslim faith who constitute 1% of our population? Or are they going to stand up and give those same rights that we see being given to Muslims to Christians? In terms of, as you just described, people like Kim Davis who take a stand for their faith? Or are they going to continue to be the mealy-mouthed, apologetic, wishy-washy Republican that we've seen from so many of our candidates recently?
Well, people get offended when they hear Trump speak. The thing that I do like is he's proven all the pundits wrong. You don't have to have a crafted, calculated statement with only 3 talking points. He says what he says. It's crass, it's harsh, it's biting, but people trust the core. They believe what he's saying. And also somebody asked me what was going to help him if the ads were going to help him. I'm saying the headlines help him, because when he came out on the immigrants, San Bernardino happened like the week later. So I'm neutral as National Committee woman.
Yeah, that helped him, and I think the women are going to be key in this race. I think a lot of, not enough yet, but a lot of American women are starting to wake up and see, in light of these attacks, okay, what does the Muslim faith say about women?
All right, hold on. Save it, because we've got to go to another break. You're listening to Truth for Our Time. Tamara Scott, 99.3 FM, Webcast One Live Studio.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for the opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens. Rock on. This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Welcome back to Truth for Our Time with your host, Tamara Scott.
I'm talking with Leo Hohmann, WorldNet Daily reporter and columnist, and we're talking about the impact we're dealing with right now in our culture, the Islamic Sharia law. Concerned Women for America has been talking about this since 2006, I know, around the state. We have pamphlets on Sharia law and the Constitution, and Sharia law and its impact on America. Leo, you were just about to mention the women's vote. And of course, we know Sharia law, not so, how should we say, welcoming, fair, honorable for women. Finish your comment on the women and the women vote, and then I'm going to ask you about New Year's Eve in Cologne.
Yeah, I was just starting to say that I think American women, Western women in general, are starting to wake up to the fact that women under Islam are treated like basically property of the man. I mean, the man is allowed to rape his wife if she refuses sex. We've got if a woman is raped, she must have multiple male witnesses show up in court to defend her. If not, then she's the guilty party and can be convicted of adultery and killed. We've got female genital mutilation going on in many of these Muslim-dominated countries.
Have you heard? Is that now happening in America at all?
I don't know the stats, but I have heard from a reputable source. Mr. Daniel Akbari has written a very good book on that, about honor violence.
I hear that as well.
And female genital mutilation. You might want to have him on your show because he is a former top-level Sharia defense lawyer from Iran who defected to America some years ago and is very much up on that. And I would hate to give you any figures on that.
Okay.
he definitely says that it is on the rise, I believe.
I'm hearing the same thing, so I'll get in contact with you and get more information from him. But continue on with our women, the women vote, and New Year's Eve. I mean, as you're saying, if a woman gets raped, it is her fault, and she's now the only.
It's her fault unless she can produce 3 or 4, male witnesses who can say that she was raped.
And they will not witness against another Muslim.
Exactly. So, what are the chances?
So New Year's Eve.
Yeah, so that brings us to New Year's Eve in Germany. Cologne, Hamburg, these major cities in Germany saw just a wave after wave of attacks on women on New Year's Eve. Over 500 cases of Muslim crimes against women. CNN is reporting that 40% of them were sexual assaults. So you had 560 violent crimes. 40% of them were sexual assaults, and they were carried out almost exclusively by men of Middle Eastern and North African descent, Muslim migrants, which we know Angela Merkel, the Chancellor of Germany, has recently invited 1.1 million Muslim migrants into her country from the Middle East and North Africa. And the response there now in Germany is, wow, what have we done? We're seeing people rallying in the streets. We're seeing German police using water cannons against their own people who are upset about this. We're seeing the German government threaten its own people, Tamara, as far as what comments they can make on social media, Facebook, Twitter. If you are too critical of the Muslim migrants, you will get fined or put on probation by your own government.
And that's in Germany?
That's in Germany.
But haven't we also
The Washington Post reported that last week.
But aren't we also dealing with that here? Hasn't that been recommended here as well? In a couple
That is exactly where I was going with this conversation.
Sorry.
After the San Bernardino attacks, Tamara, after those attacks that killed 14 Americans celebrating a Christmas party in California, Obama's Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, came out with an outrageous comment in which she said she would not hesitate to prosecute Americans for making in what she called hateful speech that could incite violence against Muslims. In other words, you wouldn't be able to criticize Muslims on Facebook if she thought that it was inciting potential violence against Muslims, which we know could be interpreted, such vague language would be very dangerous. And threaten our First Amendment rights here in America. So you've got Obama trying to do the same thing that Germany and Sweden has done similar things. Here in the United States, she was forced to walk back those comments rather quickly because a lot of folks, including some GOP presidential hopefuls, George Pataki, the former governor of New York, came out and said, well, you're going to have to arrest me first because I'm not going to stop saying that it's Islamic terrorism that is our enemy. And so she was kind of forced to walk that back. So that was good. But just the fact that was thrown out there as a bit of a test to see if they could get away with it was frankly quite frightening.
And they send up these weather balloons all the time just to see what takes flight and what is not allowed, i.e. this president's latest push for gun control, and I'll try and put it on my Facebook.
Yeah, that's very... Do you have another few minutes to
We have
talk
just
about that?
maybe 2 minutes. Go ahead.
2 minutes, yeah. Okay, so there's this bill in Congress called the American Safe Act of 2015 that was put forth by Congressman Michael McCall out of Texas. It was a fairly weak bill, really, it just called for enhanced screening and background checks on Syrian and Iraqi refugees. It wouldn't have really stopped any refugees from coming here. It was just asking the Obama administration to guarantee that they could be vetted more carefully and enhance the background checks. He promised to veto it. Obama said, no, that's a non-starter. Then he turns around and issues executive orders against American law-abiding citizens that he's going to have expanded background checks on any American who wants to buy a gun. You know, even private person-to-person sales, you would have to do a background check before you could sell your gun, say, to your son or your friend. So I just thought it was interesting that he's against expanded background checks for Syrian refugees, but he's for them for law-abiding American citizens wanting to buy a gun.
It does draw a great contrast, and I thank you for bringing that to our attention. I appreciate what you do, Leo. I appreciate that you take the hits like I do to tell the truth, and you're not going to back down just because somebody doesn't like it.
No.
And we are the Ezekiel voice. We are told if you warn, if I give you a warning and you don't tell people, then their blood is on your hands. But if you sound the warning and you've done your job, at least you've warned them, and their blood is no longer on your hands. So that's why we do what we do. In closing, anything you want to let people know? We've got 20 seconds.
Just wanted to thank you, Tamara, for your brave voice there in that key battleground state of Iowa and going out across the United States. Thank you so much for all that you do and for having me on.
Same to you, my friend. Thanks for being willing to tell us the truth and make yourself available so that we can hear it. Friends, you have heard the truth. Now it's yours. You take responsibility for it. Go out and ask tough questions of these candidates. Pay attention. Make your plans to be there February 1st. It depends. Your liberty depends on you. Be encouraged and never be complacent.